I hate this show. The show in question is called Dimension High School, and I swear to God, no show has ever made me scream this much. If I had to break someone without physically harming them, I'd go full Clockwork Orange and force them to watch this show. I came across this show while perusing MyAnimeList net looking for some hidden gems or turds or something to make a video about, when I stumbled across this show that had a whopping score of 5.10, which, mind you, I found quite generous. But while the low score was somewhat an incentive for me to check it out for the lulz, it wasn't the main attraction. What really made me want to check out the show was the fact that it was half live action and half anime, in quotation marks, because really it's just a bunch of guys mucking about in mocap suits. The show is about 4 boys and their teacher at a cram school, and each one of them is your stock standard anime boy. You got your kind teacher figure, tough but secretly a sweet guy, the visually impaired smartass who sucks up to the teacher a disturbing amount and is the most annoying character ever, the cinnamon bun who is a literal psychopath for reasons I will explain later, and the main character who only has 3 personality traits. 1. He's your standard anime protagonist. 2. He likes plants. 3. He's a masochist. I'll explain that later. And that's all you need to know. The show starts off with our protagonist finding a suspiciously round and prop-like rock at school and bringing it into class with him. The rock starts floating around and talking. And yes, someone's job in the art department was to draw on the rock with a pen. The rock introduces himself as Studio and tells them that he needs their help, otherwise humanity will be destroyed. And the main character just chucks him out the window. When everyone talks about how strange that rock was, he says it was probably a prank and then goes on to spit some angst.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
But the rock comes back and transports them into some magical CGI classroom place. And all the fellas have been turned into CGI anime boys. And off the bat, there's a lot of clipping, but they try to play it off like, OMG, our hands can go through solid mass, we must have superpowers now. And listen, I do like it when shows are willing to acknowledge their own flaws and joke about them, but like, can't they fix the problem instead? Also, the faces aren't really that animated. Ironic, I know. And sometimes the models awkwardly slide while walking. Studio appears and tells them that they are in the 2-dimensional world and that the 4 of them are the chosen ones, TM. Even though there's 5 of them, which they point out. They demand to be taken back to their world, but Studio is like, oh, I don't have enough strength to for plot convenience. And then a big sphinx that has the voice of a TV host clips through the wall. The Sphinx tells them that if they can solve his puzzle, he'll let them go. A puzzle appears on the blackboard and they are given a time limit to solve it. Now, all of the puzzles in the show, bar the very first one, require some knowledge of Japanese, so if you don't have any, you're just stuck listening to the main characters bickering while footage of their heads pop up on screen until the timer runs out. Anyway, they lose and the Sphinx eats the teacher's soul as punishment. Oh no, the teacher's dead. The Sphinx then gives them another puzzle and this time they give the correct answer. And they all go home, including the teacher, who is now alive. Yay, we're getting homework after all. Studio appears and tells the teacher that the Sphinx has this rule that if you get brought back to life after being eaten, you will lose the thing you love the most. After the main character throws him out the window, again, the teacher checks his phone and has a huge freak out because all the money from his day trade app is gone. Though, fun fact, the English subtitles messed up for me and said date rate instead, so I googled it thinking it might be a sponsor of the show, only to find out it didn't exist. So I thought the show was trying to imply that the teacher was either spending his paycheck on some raunchy gachas, or that he was moonlighting as a prostitute. Either way, the guy in the glasses looks traumatized, and that's the only joy I got from this whole episode. The main character goes home and waters his plants, and realizes that if he gets eaten by the Sphinx, all his plants will disappear. Wow, what incredibly high stakes. Episode 2, we learned that Tough Guy and Cinnamon Bun are best friends, and have been ever since Tough Guy crashed his motorcycle and Cinnamon Bun saved his life. Though, in reality, the only thing he needed to be saved from was the makeup department. Anyway, Studio comes and takes him back to magical CGI land, and because they lost one of the puzzles the last time, it's now 2.2-dimensional. Look, I didn't take physics for my leaving cert, but even I know that's not a thing. Anyway, the Sphinx comes and they do the puzzle shenanigans and Cinnamon Bun gets eaten, but they manage to beat the second puzzle. So when they do go back, Cinnamon Bun is alive. But oh wait, Tough Guy no longer exists because he was the thing Cinnamon Bun loved the most. Aww, isn't that sweet? Don't worry, they get him back next episode. And when Tough Guy comes back, Cinnamon Bun decides to confess to him that the reason Tough Guy crashed his motorcycle was because he tore out the brakes. And Tough Guy is completely okay with that. In the same episode, we learn that there's a prophecy made by Oedipus. Yes, the same one who slept with his mother. About 4 heroes defeating the Sphinx. Now, I studied Oedipus back in secondary school, and my key takeaway was that Oedipus had 0 foresight. Otherwise, he wouldn't have killed his father and done all that stuff with his mother. I'm just saying I wouldn't trust a prophecy from him. Episode 4, we learned that the main character and Glasses Guy used to be best friends. Until the main character said he didn't feel like joining the tennis club with him. And that was enough to ruin their friendship apparently. Anyway, same old, same old. They get sucked into anime land, but this time it's a different Sphinx who's like, oh yeah, that other guy was my younger brother, and he's depressed now, so I'm here to kick your ass today. Anyway, the Glasses Guy gets eaten, but they win the other puzzle and they go back to the real world. And guess what he loses? His pride. So he becomes super annoying. Mind you, I already found his character irritating enough, but this version of him reached Zenitsu levels of annoying cringe. Also, he keeps farting for some reason. Yay, toilet humor. And he's like this for the majority of episode 5, but they managed to get him back to normal again. And the main character is really happy that Glasses Guy is insulting him again. Then we get this piece of insightful commentary. What? And everything is all like, haha, we're all happy now. Haha, let's kill the rock. Seriously, the shift in tone is bizarre. Though I find it hilarious that someone's existence literally got erased, but having the Glasses Guy turn annoying was what convinced them to go, hey, maybe we should get rid of this thing. Ding dong, Spudio's dead. Or is he? Anyway, at the start of episode 6, we get this message. This episode contains a completely ad-lib section for your enjoyment. Emphasis on enjoyment. That should have warned me about what was to come. It starts off with Tough Guy convincing the main character and Glasses Guy to play basketball by bribing Glasses Guy with photos of the teacher, because that's not creepy at all. Anyway, they get hit by a bunch of balls that totally didn't come from a green screen clip, and Spudio appears to take them away. But something isn't right when they get to CGI land. They're all stuck in desks, and Spudio is huge and just chilling on the ceiling. Anyway, the Sphinx that comes is green, and I think it's in the middle of a spicy dream because let's just say we get some uncomfortable dialogue. Anyway, he hits them with a puzzle that he claims is super difficult and gives them 150 minutes. The puzzle is actually so easy that even I managed to solve it. When the main character solves it almost immediately, everyone treats him like a god. So the Sphinx gives them more riddles, and each one is ridiculously easy. They all have a nice laugh, and we cut back to the real world, and wait a minute, it was all a dream! Yes, this entire episode was filler. Mind-numbing filler. And mind you, all that was scripted. The improv section is a conversation between these two guys that form the gardening club, who are somehow even more extra than the main cast. The whole segment is just filled with gossip like, hey, did you hear the teacher is going out with the hot nurse? And so on, so on. It wasn't worth the suffering. Episode 7, we get a flashback of the teacher in his high school days, making manga with his best friend, who was sick at the time. It's implied that said friend is now dead, and then it's revealed that Spudio hadn't been killed. Rather, the teacher had spared him. He and the main character talk, and they realize the Sphinxes are trying to raise their dimension levels to destroy the 3D world, because somehow they hadn't caught on to that earlier. The teacher believes that there is something preventing the Sphinxes from entering their world, seeing as Spudio is able to travel freely, and that if they have the power to take things away, they must also have the power to bring things back. See where I'm going with this? Anyway, Spudio flies out of his pocket during class, and they all go back to anime land. A red Sphinx greets them this time, and they beat him, only for the teacher to offer himself to the Sphinx in exchange for seeing his friend one more time. Then he gets sucked into a portal. Goodbye! The gang gets back home, and in episode 8, they try to learn about the teacher's dead friend. And we find out that he got hit by a bus because simply dying of illness wasn't tragic enough for the scriptwriters. However, the main character suspects that the teacher may have sacrificed himself for a different reason. They go back to Anime Land, and this time they meet a Black Sphinx, who is pretty much the final boss. He gives them riddles, but they keep failing to answer them until Cinnamon Bun is the only one left standing. He manages to get the riddle right in episode 9, and they all go home. So they basically achieved nothing. But hey, it can't get any worse now, can it? Yay! We find out that the thing Tough Guy lost were the metal bones in his body, but the lead up to the reveal kind of implied something else.
なくなったんだ。
何が
俺の体の中の硬いパーツ。
硬いパーツ
ああ。すっごく硬い。
Seriously, what is with this camera angle? The main character has no idea what he has lost because all his plants are still there. Episode 10, the glasses guy decides to do a quiz with the gardening club to cheer the main character up. The main character realizes that the thing he lost was his ability to solve puzzles, so he is officially a dum-dum like everyone else. Oh, the horror. They go back to Anime Land and the teacher emerges from a portal, but his body is possessed by all the Sphinxes. The teacher reveals that he wants to help the Sphinxes go to the 3D world so they could feed on enough 3D energy to transcend to the 4th dimension so he could go back in time and prevent his friend's death. One of the Sphinxes reveals that they come from an alternate world where Oedipus never defeated them, and when they attempted to jump into their world, they got stuck in the 2D world, and since then have been luring 3D humans here to eat them. The main character suggests that they do a riddle battle where both teams give each other riddles and the team that loses remains trapped in the classroom forever. By the time episode 11 starts, both teams have already solved 10 riddles each. The main character then gives the Sphinxes the riddle: what has 3 legs in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, 1 leg at twilight, and 13 at night? While the Sphinxes start to solve the riddle, Spudio reveals to the main character that he once fought against the Sphinxes and lost, and that the main character's body used to be his. The Sphinxes lose the riddle and are therefore trapped in the classroom. Since breaking the rule would result in their death, they have to stay in the classroom until they solve the riddle. But before the students go back to their world, the Sphinxes reveal that Spudio can't leave with them because he's been on their side the entire time. What? The prophecy Spudio had envisioned didn't come from Oedipus. Rather, it was a ploy by the Sphinxes to get him to bring 4 humans for them to possess in the 3D world. They had muddled up his memories so he'd forget who he really was, Oedipus himself. OMG. The 4 students get to leave but are unable to bring Spudio and their teacher with them. Everything they had lost before is restored, and Glasses Guy is no longer annoying. The main character reveals that the Sphinxes will never come to their world, as the riddle didn't have an answer. The boys realize that the teacher had sacrificed himself in order to save the world, and they all cry. And at this point, we're only a little over the halfway point. So you're probably wondering, what's going to happen now? Are they going to find a way back to the other world classroom and save their teacher? Will they destroy the Sphinxes once and for all?
10 years later.
Yes, they leave their teacher to rot in a different dimension for 10 years. We get a scene of them all grown up, strolling along the beach in suits. Because that is what you do in your 20s, apparently. They reminisce about tricking the Sphinxes, but Spudio overhears having been sent by the Sphinxes to ask for hints. He goes back and tells the Sphinxes, with magical projector eyes, that they've been tricked. And the Sphinxes get so angry, so much so that one of them ends up breaking the rules by trying to get to the 3rd dimension, leading to their deaths. The teacher and Spudio are now free, but since Spudio was created by the Sphinxes, he has to die with them, but helps the teacher travel dimensions to the afterlife to see his dead friend. And the Rock is officially dead. The teacher's dead friend tells him that he is proud, and the teacher tells his friend that the manga they made together back in high school won an award. The friend also reveals that he shares his current body with Oedipus. Personally, if a guy who had relations with his mother went into my friend's body, I'd be a little disturbed. Oedipus sends him back to the real world, and his students find him face-planting in the sand, because being an actor means you have to suffer. And the story reaches its conclusion, marking what I thought was the end of my suffering, until I found out there's another episode. And it's a ghost hunting episode, meaning we get camera quality like this. Nothing happens. None of these boys get mauled, no matter how much I prayed for it. And that was Dimension High School. Yes, it's not very good. In some places, it can be so bad it's good, and maybe if I was on a Discord call with some non-imaginary friends to laugh with, maybe it would have been more bearable. If I had to say one good thing about it, the opening song was a bop, even if the visuals for it were kind of eh. One thing that confused me was who the target audience was supposed to be. Because the plot makes me think of a kids show, but there are quite a few dirty jokes, and I'm not sure if the actual puzzles are easy enough for kids to solve. Again, they all require some knowledge of Japanese, so I'm not really sure. Would I recommend this show? Only with a lot of alcohol. You have been warned. Click the buttons to feed my ego and encourage me to suffer more. Goodbye.